Okay, so why don't we start with just talking a little bit about the kinds of struggles that you had with eating and how those developed for you and what they were like.
So when I was younger, I would have to say maybe in third or fourth grade, I developed a lot faster than a lot of my classmates. So I guess like in turn, I tended to look a little bit heavier set. All of my friends were like very thin and skinny, and I just put on weight really easily. And my mom and dad would always tell me that you need to watch what you're eating. And when you're 10 years old, it just leaves an impression, just like, wow, I'm 10 and I'm already like chubby, I'm already fat. And it definitely became a problem in middle school, because that's when, everyone starts going through puberty, and that's when bullying gets a little bit more vicious, and everyone was developing in a way that I wasn't. All my friends were getting taller while I was staying short and tubby. So I had watched like a lot of TV episodes about eating disorders, specifically anorexia and bulimia. And when I was saying that, like, I wanted to like not experiment with them, but there was like a weird allure to it, like, oh, this is so romantic, like having to deal with this struggle. And I have a very addictive personality. I like to do things 110%. And I found out that when I would eat certain foods, because of like the way like my body would digest them, it would work kind of like as a laxative. And before I knew it, I started sneaking in like little laxative tablets from my mom, who she would give it to my little sister who would struggle from constipation. So I would steal some of those, and it just kind of became a habit. I would always have one tablet right before dinner. So then everything like from the day would just like leave, and I found myself losing weight in that way.
And was that a good feeling for you, or when you felt yourself losing weight or saw yourself losing weight?
Yeah, it was very rewarding, kind of just like, oh, like I'm finally seeing results, I'm finally looking like my friends somewhat. When my parents caught on that like I was doing this, because obviously my sister's tablets were being missing, they sat me down and they had a conversation, and so I turned to fasting instead.
And when would this have been that they sort of caught on to what was going on with you?
So if I were to say that this whole like laxative thing started maybe when I was in 6th grade, they caught on halfway through my 7th grade year. So I had been doing it for maybe a year and a half.
And did you fess up? I mean, did you tell them what was going on?
Yes and no. They kind of cornered me, and I tried to lie about it. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but eventually they got me to, confess, and it was really awkward and uncomfortable for me to say, yeah, I've been taking the little laxative tablets. Sorry.
And were they angry? Were they alarmed? Were they concerned? It was very courageous on your part to fess up.
Yeah, it was more of like a, oh, don't do that again. They thought it was more of like a phase, I guess.
See. Sure. Okay. Yep.
So they thought that once I went into high school, that things would be different.
But really what happened is it kind of went underground. Then you just started fasting. You couldn't take the laxatives, so you started fasting instead.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And anything else like diuretics or excessive exercise or anything else to...
That is something that I'm actually currently struggling with, just finding that balance. When I was a junior, I went through a breakup, and that was really hard because he ended up leaving me for someone who was a lot thinner than I was, and in my mind I just correlated the two things. I was like, oh, he left me because I'm fat, even though at the time, it's ridiculous, I was 5'1", weighing 100 pounds.
Wow. And
in my mind I'm just like, oh, I'm a pig, I guess I need to exercise. And so I would eat one meal a day, I would run a lot, to the point where I have to like run with like a band around my shins, because I never like got that properly taken care of, and never let it heal properly. And it was just like this obsession with looking like, like those photoshopped images, like what I thought would be considered like desirable for like a romantic partner or like as a friend. And yeah, I guess once again it just turned into this obsession where if I ate more than one meal a day, I would start crying. If I ate more than what I like told myself that I would eat, I would feel nauseous. And actually, it's funny that like this came into conversation because like once again I have like a really addictive personality. And this past year, I had actually struggled a lot with self-harming.
Like burning or cutting?
Yeah,
or?
a lot of cutting, a lot of cutting. And one of the alternatives that my psychiatrist recommended was to exercise, because I had also been complaining about the whole weight thing. He said, oh, well, this is a healthier alternative, and you get to see the results that you want.
Did he know about your excessive exercise in terms of your eating? Mm-mm. Oh, no, so he's recommending the very thing that you really are trying to move away from.
Yeah, and so it started out very casual. It just exercising kind of, I like it and I don't at the same time. And during, you're supposed to have like a rest day every so often. And this past week when I had my rest day, it was awful. I was literally just pacing around my room. Just, my brain was just going like at 100 miles per hour. Like I need to do something productive. And I thought about, breaking my like razors so I could like grab some blades. And I'm just like, no, that's literally exactly why you're exercising in the first place.
And how do you the feelings that lead to that wanting to cut, or the feelings that lead to that wanting to purge? Tell me what the emotional buildup is, or the thought process that's going on before you do those things.
So it's so weird to describe it. I guess like the best way to do it is that sometimes I feel like it's so weird to like actually verbalize it, but I feel like there's someone just constantly shouting in my head. And I guess I don't know if I ended up materializing this voice. I don't like actually hear it. Like I don't know if that makes sense, but it feels like someone's in my head just shouting, and they're very angry and they won't stop shouting until, at the time it would be like until I cut, and that would kind of be like, okay, like it's done. The shouting is done. I can go back to sleep. I can focus back on my studies.
So almost a way to silence that voice.
Yes.
It's not even so much what the voice is saying. It's just that it's there and it's critical and it's shaming you and it's noxious, and you just want to get away from it and turn it off or shut it off.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And then doing those things, those self-destructive things, quiets that voice, and you're calm and you can go to sleep or okay. Yep.
Yeah, and I guess like it's weird talking about it because there's a negative stigma behind, any type of mental illness or disorder, and I feel very shy because a lot of people tend to tack on schizophrenia to hearing voices, and there shouldn't be a stigma behind any mental illness.
Right.
So I actually have post-traumatic stress disorder, but I still feel petrified every time that I try to verbalize the shouting in my head because I don't want to be labeled as something.
Right.
So it's just like a lot of circles, a lot of confusion.
And what do you tell yourself? I mean, when you see those kinds of behaviors, like you see the cutting and you see the self-harm, and then like what sense do you make of that to yourself? What do you tell yourself? Do you say this is okay? This is a way to get through this? Do you say don't do that? That's bad. I mean, what is that? Is there a struggle? Okay.
Yeah, there is definitely a struggle. Earlier, before I went into intensive therapy, and I would go once a week, but before that, I would kind of use it to justify it, like the self-harming specifically. I would kind of use that as a justification, like, oh well, if I cut myself or if I don't eat for a set amount of time and it gives me that like same sensation, that's better than, let's say, like committing suicide, and I don't want to commit suicide because I would really hurt my family, so I'll just do this alternative instead. But what I never accounted for was that, once again, it's very addictive, and once you like hit a threshold, suddenly you want more and you want more, so you start eating a lot less. That one meal a day turns into maybe like a banana a day. And
It's a slippery slope.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, enough is never enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so you, in your mind's eye, you kind of tie together the eating things and the self-destructive things.
Mm-hmm.
They're connected for you.
Yes.
And how so?
A lot of the times, I don't know if it would be some sort of like body dysmorphia, but every time that I look into a mirror, I just see a lot of stuff that I don't like, and then like the whole voice inside the head thing starts rolling, and I know that it's not good behavior, but in a way it also gets the fastest results.
Well, and that it reinforces the whole thing is reinforcing it. Now, let me ask you: in your life now, who is aware of those struggles that you've had and that you do have? Who is on the inside and is on your side and not on your case, and then who's kind of on the outside that doesn't yet know?
So, people on the outside would probably be just like acquaintances. You know, I have a lot of acquaintances, but I wouldn't say like a lot of friends. I'd feel really bad if any of like my friends were watching this. They're taking the class, but I feel uncomfortable like letting people know the specifics. But as to people who are on my side, definitely my mom, my best friend. But my mom is the one who's more not on my case, but the one who's more aware of me taking things to the next level.
Okay.
So when I told her that I was getting back into exercising, she asked me if I was taking 2 rest days a week, if I was still eating properly. And when I told her, no, I'm only taking 1 rest day, and when I told her what I was eating, she said, all right, well, at least you're eating 3 meals a day. And this week, when I went out with some friends, we went to a burger shop, and I thought, oh, I'm going to treat myself. You know, I've been good. And, like, as soon as I went home, I just called my mom, and I started crying. I'm like, I had a burger. I hate myself. Why did I do this? I want to throw it up. And so she had to be like, don't. It's okay. Like, one bad meal is not going to ruin
So
everything.
she's going to talk you off the ledge a little bit. Okay. And so you mentioned, when you were talking a second ago, you said, you mentioned before you did counseling or before you did therapy. So at some point then you realized this thing's got me. I mean, I need to get some help. I need some outside help. So help me understand how it is that you came to that realization, and then what that help has been like for you. What have you found useful and what's not been useful? And
So, this past fall was actually really rough because of certain living situations, and once again the whole self-harm thing escalated to the point where one night I actually frightened myself because it wouldn't stop bleeding, and I had to call a friend, and I feel so bad for her, but she was really great. She came over, and she's the one who told me, you need to go talk to somebody. And at the time I was seeing a counselor, not a psychiatrist. I was seeing a counselor every 2 weeks. And so I had actually attempted to overdose on my medication, and because I ended up getting like really nauseated, and I pretty much just like threw everything up, and in a weird way I was like happy, like, oh, like at least I got like all the food out of me, but at the same time it felt like a failed attempt. So,
and a little scary too.
Yeah, it was kind of like, I felt like it was a very permanent choice, and at the time that I swallowed the pills I was very like positive about it, but when I started feeling that nausea, then I started thinking about, you know, I'm only 20 years old, I haven't even lived, oh, I'm not gonna cry, I haven't even lived 25% of my life. Why am I going to do this just because this voice in my head won't shut up? So I went to my counselor, and she told me that I needed to go into a psychiatric hospital, which was really hard. And she basically said, if you don't go voluntarily, I'm gonna have to Baker Act you. And I said, oh, let's not do that, I'll go. And I was in the hospital for about a week. And we talked a lot about, I guess, like the addictive alternatives that I tended to choose, and we talked a little bit about food and how I shouldn't be like petrified of it. Because it's like a weird love-hate relationship. When I feel like down in the dumps, I like binge eat, and like the greasier the food the better, and like the more the better. But as soon as that like low kind of like starts going away and I start feeling better, then it's just that guilt. I have to get rid of all this gross stuff that I just ate. What's the fastest way to do it? Okay, I could just like puke it up, and it never happened. I don't even have to properly digest it.
And this is a cycle that's very familiar to you. Yeah.
Definitely. So it's been really great with, I joined a sorority, and all my sorority sisters have been super supportive. They're always keeping me accountable. When we get together, they're always just asking like, hey, how are you doing? A lot of the activities always involve food, but like a healthy food option, so I don't feel bad. And yeah, just like a lot of checking in.
Well, it sounds like that social support, the counseling is helpful, the social support is helpful, the wake-up calls were helpful, both your own taking the pills and the hospitalization, just sort of, this is serious, let's take this seriously. And it's kind of moved you to the place that you're at now.
Right.
And so describe that for me. How are these struggles for you that have been with you since middle school? I mean, these have been a companion of yours for some period of time. Okay. And so how are they for you now?
Well, now I don't want to say they're a lot better, but in a way they are. I've started to recognize that thought pattern. So like I was talking earlier about how I went to like eat that burger and I called my mom. Just kind of that awareness. I could have easily not called her and just have purged on my own, or I could have, gone to the gym for 3 hours and try to like have worked it all off. Also, when I feel nauseous for eating like an apple or something, I just like sit myself down and I kind of talk to myself like, alrighty, you need nutrients, you need to eat, so you're gonna hold this down. The reason you're feeling nauseous is because you haven't eaten anything all day. Your body's not rejecting this. And just kind of like recognizing when the thought patterns start like going downhill, finding something to like stop it. Or, like,
so the mindfulness is a key piece, and then also sort of thinking clearly or rationally and sort of being self-soothing. So you're not criticizing yourself so much as you are, whoa.
Yeah.
You're sort of, okay, interesting. Interesting. And you're finding that's helpful.
Yes.
And so what has happened then to the voice in your head? Where is that voice, and how do you deal with the voice now?
The voice is still there sometimes. Thanks to medication, it's a lot quieter. It only, I guess, starts getting angry when I start getting into that negative thought process. But one way that I've gotten it to stop is by limiting my time at the gym to only 1 hour. So I set a timer on my phone, and it's a lot of self-discipline, but like once the timer goes off, I leave just to avoid, I guess, being there for longer than I need to be. So I get that satisfaction of like, all right, the voice is gone, but I don't also give in into like the addiction and the obsession. And yeah, just like staying busy. The support system has also been super beneficial. I'm a little scared and nervous for when or if it decides to like start acting up again. But I think for now, like, we're in a good spot.
Good. And what is it that these days you're liking about yourself?
Definitely the recognition of noticing if something's up with me, that I can notice it with other people. So it's kind of it's nice to be able to notice if someone's not having a good day, and being able to reach out without being very confrontational about it. Just like, hey, do you want to hang out? What I've been doing a lot is inviting my friends to go to the gym with me, so they could also, they don't know this, so like I make it seem like, oh, like, yeah, we'll go to the gym, like we'll hang out, but it's more for once they're tired, that's kind of like my cue of like, all right, you can't stay here longer. Like, let's go do another activity. So that's something that I've really been liking.
That's good, good. It sounds like the whole ordeal and struggle has made you more attuned to other people and to their suffering and to their challenges.
Yeah.
And that's kind of an upside, and you wind up being a better friend as a result.
I guess.
Well, I would add to the qualities that that you like about yourself, the remarkable candor and your courage in dealing with this and talking with this and coming in and sharing your story with people. Is there any concluding, for people who are watching this, any concluding thing that you would want to say to them if you could rewind and you were that 10-year-old girl again, that 12-year-old girl, and somebody said you were chubby or they had things to say about your weight or your size or your shape, what would you say to a girl now that you wish you had heard when you were back then?
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna start crying. Okay. I would probably say that you are unique and individual. There are 7 billion people on this planet. It would be ridiculous for you to try to conform to one body type just because it's what you see on the television. Do not give in to any addictions, no matter how glamorous or romanticized they might seem. And if you feel like something's off, go and ask for help. There's nothing embarrassing about it. There is nothing shameful in asking for help. People don't apologize for breaking their legs or for having cancer. You shouldn't apologize for having an eating disorder. So
wonderful. You are unique.
Thank you.
You are courageous. You are candid, and I appreciate you for coming and taking the time to talk.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.